I will definitely show this video to my sons when they grow up, because this is no joke. If you get involved in a relationship with a girl who is connected to these professions, then, most likely, you will be in for a very bad time. Let's right now go through the top 10 professions that can ruin a woman. And, most likely, it's better not to approach her. This is not something that happens always. This is something that happens in the majority of cases. If a woman works with a constant stream of people, expect trouble. If it's a female stream, that is, it could be nails, eyelashes, beauty salons, hairdressers, cosmetology, then she daily listens to dozens of women's stories about cheating, betrayals, divorces. One has an abusive husband, another's husband is just a scoundrel. You understand that no one comes to say, my boyfriend or my husband is a great guy. He keeps his word, provides. I respect him and love him very much. No, such a woman will not discuss her relationships, because she simply doesn't need to. Those who need to dump pain and spill dirt will develop this topic. As a result, the psyche inevitably absorbs all this garbage. Why garbage? Because half of the story there might be made up. And so 2 years pass, and you are no longer a sweet girl, but a container with someone else's pain. You unconsciously believe that all men lie, all cheat. A husband should, but constantly doesn't. This is not your experience. This is their experience, but now it lives in you. And also women love to brag. Here one client, say, comes and says, and my husband bought an iPhone 15 Pro Max in gold. Another shows you photos from the Maldives, say, and a third has a brand new car from the dealership. And you have nothing. Well, maybe you do have something, but he hasn't given you anything in a long time or doesn't have the opportunity. And so you drag your feet home after 6 clients in a row, remembering all the great things they told you today. And in your head arises, and what has my husband done at all? Maybe I'm living some wrong life. How am I worse? In general, a woman as a result turns into a collection of other people's tragedies, or she has a long list of stories about how one can live colorfully. This is what doesn't happen in her life. It's very difficult to build a family with a woman who inhales this negativity or reasons for envy 8 hours straight every day. But also, of course, there is a risk that she will start comparing her life with more successful clients. Well, and if a woman works with a stream of men, that is, it could be reception, bar, fitness club, car dealership, sales consultant, what happens? Every day someone hits on her, someone asks for her number, someone invites her for coffee, and someone just undresses her with their eyes right from the doorway. She dreams of living at least one day so that no one climbs on her. But no, 10 men a day want her. 50 are shy but smile. Another 100 scan her with their gaze and think how to approach her. And already in 3 years, she has 100 ready techniques in her head on how to quickly and competently ditch a guy. That is, in this she is already a pro, because she does it more often than you brush your teeth. She has heard all the compliments in the world in Russian, English, Turkish with mistakes from Google Translate. That is, and this is simply a chronic excess of attention, which ends in devaluation. If a woman is shown every day that she is a goddess, then don't be surprised that in a year she will look at men like beggars or like servants. Even if you have a key fob from a Rolls-Royce in your hands, she will say, so, I've had 5 of those in the last month. What year is your car? Well, what can this be compared to? Like taking a blue-eyed blonde 190 centimeters tall and throwing him into the center of China? Here he enters the subway and women swarm him. He coughed, and someone already fell in love with him. He said hi, and in 20 minutes he already has a family and a child. That is, well, of course, there in a year his self-esteem will be somewhere near Jupiter. Here, take, for example, a waitress. This is the most polite dynamite. That is, dynamiting is her profession. She will smile, laugh, play along, take the tip, but won't give the number. You thought you hooked her with something, but she's just working. We understand that it's not beauty that ruins a woman, but the conditions under which this beauty is noticed every day. That is, if we take a very beautiful woman in the modeling crowd, then she can easily have quite low self-esteem. Why? Because next to her there are many who are prettier than her, brighter, more figurine-like. For the modeling business, her appearance is not wow, but just the norm. At the same time, the most ordinary, a little chubby girl at the reception can have her self-esteem inflated like popcorn in the microwave. And as a result, We get a woman overheated by male attention. And these changes in a woman, they can happen, what is most dangerous, quite quickly. That is, as of the current moment in time. Today she can be a completely normal girl. I know such examples. Well, really. Well, just one decision is enough. Brighter lipstick, deeper neckline, and that's it. In a year she no longer says hello, but does a favor by saying hello. In 2 years, a man without a Rolex is already physically unpleasant to her. And in 3 years, she will start evaluating men by their level of usefulness. But we just have to be realists. Understand that women who are spoiled by attention most often have no sense of risk in breaking up, divorce, and even cheating, because it seems to her that there is always a backup airfield. You can always find a cooler man. That is, instead of being afraid of breaking up and the prospects, she can even rejoice in this event. This often happens. Let's move on. If a woman's profession is based on her beauty, expect trouble. What is it about? About car dealerships, advertising, promo, exhibitions, and all that. Yea, a woman's appearance turns into a tool for achieving a goal. Her self-esteem is measured by male gazes, attention, lust. A hungry male look is such an injection, a dopamine shot. Of course, the beloved will never admit anything and will say that I just love working with people. But if you translate this phrase from female to Russian, it means, I love when they want me, but I can't say it out loud, otherwise the illusion of my modesty will disappear, and you won't let me go anywhere. Here, and if a man wants to lock such a woman at home to eliminate all these unpleasant risks, then he simply turns on the timer until her escape. In home conditions, she almost immediately starts withdrawal, gifts, travels. Well, for some time, of course, they can entertain her, but sooner or later she will still start feeling like an invisible person. And what will a woman who is used to attention do in such a situation? Well, correctly, she goes to look for it again. And who can give her this dose? Attention, the fastest. Well, like, that she's still hot, right? A man who is not her husband. In general, here, well, so as not to explain the obvious. Yes, I'll say briefly. If female beauty is monetized in any form, then this is no longer yours. Remember, a woman who is used to being desired does not want to be just loved. For her, this is already a downgrade. If you think that a woman will maintain this spiritual monogamy when every second one makes it clear to her that yes, I would do you, yes, then, well, you are very naive. The feeling of being in demand can only be supported by the reaction of the crowd, the masses, and not just the reaction or compliment of the husband. Every lustful glance at her is a microdose of high, and it's scary not even that she catches this toxic high. It's scary that without it she can no longer. And such a woman will never be able to limit herself to one husband. It seems to you that you chose a dream woman. She is beautiful, bright, confident. She has a walk like a winner, eyes like a predator. But in fact, you became the husband of a woman whose body is nearby, but emotionally, soulfully she is with strangers. Moreover, if she ever has to choose you or them, she will choose them. Her heart belongs not to you, but to the crowd that likes, watches, comments, flirts, and asks for the number. She leaves the house to collect these gazes, and you just don't notice all this at point-blank range. Such a woman has long been living on the panel with her soul, and when she tells you, "Darling, I'm going for a manicure," it means she went hunting. And when someone looks at her, someone wants her, it becomes a little easier for her. You give her stability, but she wants applause. And in the end, such a woman will leave for the one who will look at her with greater greed. If your woman is a singer, actress, dancer, or any other profession where passion is needed, expect trouble. These are people who live on emotional swings. They, one might say, feed on drama. They always need shocks in life. If there is no shock, then they create them. Breakup, cheating, quarrel is just material for inspiration and not some serious life tragedy, so to speak. For most creative people, emotions come first in life. They don't need a calm, measured personal life. Well, in words, only if, but indeed they either look for problems or create these problems. Creative people are those who are used to giving in to emotions, amplifying emotions, and not controlling them. You understand, yes, what the problem is. It will be difficult to live under one roof at all and negotiate anything. Their work is on the verge of hysteria, passion, at the peak of suffering. Well, The main thing is that it looks beautiful and the result is cool. And this is not monotonously tightening nuts at the factory, thinking about your life. No, here everything is the opposite. Every day you have to twist your emotions to the limit. That is, even a simple dancer needs deep inner experiences, strong emotions, inspiration that will make her move with the right energy. And most often this is a woman who cannot just sit calmly watching the river flow all day, for example. No, her brain will go crazy from boredom. That is, you need to have, well, negative intelligence to think that such a woman can calmly, and without hysterics take care of kids, in the mornings with a smile cook them porridge. Well, that won't happen. Here any man who has been in a relationship with a creative woman will now confirm my words, my observation, that she is like a firefighter who sets her own house on fire to then start putting it out. That is, she herself creates a problem out of nowhere. Some conflict, some nonsense, some absurdity. And why? Because she's bored, and she doesn't care at all what happens to your relationship. Whether she manages to resolve the problem she created herself, or everything falls apart to hell. It doesn't matter. The important thing is that there are events, there are emotions, there is drive. Everything else is collateral damage. If for the sake of emotion it is necessary to end the relationship with you or jump to Vasily, then, most likely, she will do it. You are just another character from her movie. Such women never take life seriously. That is, they live in a cartoon, in a certain role. For example, she can easily digest your death. She just opens a new role, the role of a widow. Deep down, she doesn't care about you. She will cry not because you are dear to her, but to look convincing in front of the audience. That is, even at funerals she will think not about you, not about how to say goodbye to you, but about how to look right. Yes? That is, it turns out to be some kind of not life, but some kind of performance. And a beloved man for such a woman is just a tool for experiences. The probability is very high that a creative woman will change relationships every 3 to 5 years. This is how it most often happens. One day the moment will come when you become predictable for her, readable, and even a quarrel between you will no longer be new. And then, right then, the beloved starts looking for some new drama and throws the previous guy in the trash. Let's move on. Professions that involve physical contact. Well, this is always, of course, risks. That is, we are talking about massage, spa, and so on. That is, when a woman provides some service to a man. Here all the pabachiki are clear, they lie on the surface. That is, habit to bodily closeness with strangers' bodies. Boundaries can dull where work is, and where something personal already is. In life I first of all trust my observations. Here all the massage therapists I know, their fitness trainers had unfriendly contacts with clients. That is, I know, well, dozens of such stories. I suspect that they haven't told me about a lot. That is, it's very difficult to find a specialist who doesn't have such a story. Someone will now say, so, it turns out, this also applies to men. So I kind of don't argue with that. I'm just saying that these are big risks when you face temptation directly. That is, every day it passes through your eyes, ears, and hands. This is equivalent to walking on the edge of an abyss every day. That is, a week, a month, a year may pass and everything is fine, but someday something will definitely happen. Here I am personally absolutely sure of this, yes. When I consulted women, then, well, every third or every fourth started actively flirting with me. That is, then my consultations were still in person. And if for the next 10 years I had worked in the same mode, then I don't know what it would have led to. That is, I would have collected, if now with a confident face I reported that yes, I would have definitely coped with it. I don't know what it would have ended with. And I don't even want to know. Honestly, I don't even want to. Therefore, if we proceed from the fact that a modern person doesn't really fight temptations, he rather seeks them, then as soon as desire arises, that person will immediately take it and realize it. Therefore, such a very unreliable story. Let's move on. If a woman is actively engaged in business, then her main priority is almost always autonomy in relationships. That is, in life you will go on parallel courses. She will never be your helper, and if she is, then she will really dislike it. One of the key reasons why she needs this full autonomy is the opportunity, this option to dump from her husband anywhere at any moment. That is, her suitcases are already packed, just 1 hour, and she's no longer at home with the children. And also autonomy improves her negotiating position within, say, a conflict. That is, she's not a fool and understands that if she depends on you in at least something, then she will be forced to recognize you as a support and reckon with you. And for her, in her perception, this is a loss. That is, this is a woman who is initially set to compete with a man. She wants to have and set her own rules, her own principles, her own schedule. Therefore, a relationship with such a woman is a constant struggle for leadership. Remember, for her you are not a beloved man. For her you are a companion. That is, almost every decision of yours can be questioned. Most often such a woman agrees with those decisions that she likes, and does not agree with decisions that she doesn't like. Here she will already argue, prove something, and dispute. Well, and if your relationship is arranged like this, then it's worth thinking in your free time who is really in charge in such a relationship. Yes, but that's not all. For such a woman, career successes are more important than being a good mother and wife. That is, the family is simply perceived as, well, such a secondary task. She may not care at all whether she is a good wife or not. The main thing for her is to be successful. That is, it's the same as if someone now tells me, Maxim, you are a bad ballerina. Well, honestly, I don't care about that. I'm not competing with anyone in this field and don't plan to. Here the same thing happens with this businesswoman. You can bring 1,000 arguments that she is a lousy mother and wife, and she doesn't care. It doesn't even particularly hook her. Her sense of self-worth is completely tied to her career. Well, and what do we have in the end? The function of wife and mother. She will not perform at full power. In her eyes, family and children are just accessories, which, moreover, are desirable to delegate to nannies, because she has more important things to do. Most often such women treat housewives with contempt. This is such a characteristic sign by which they can be identified, although in fact they are simply afraid to admit that they are not capable of giving the love, this care that is necessary required for this role. You can't give what you don't have inside. And when a woman knows that she is unfit as a mother, she starts actively devaluing this role. That is, she tries to turn everything upside down, that being a mom, wife, taking care of the house. Well, this is so. Well, this is for ugly girls with a small outlook, yes? Wiping dust is generally an occupation for grandmothers. That is, everything that does not increase her ego. For her this is such a waste of time. Of course, the man will definitely not be the main one with such a woman. That is, at best for some time he will have the right to vote, but every joint decision will be suffered, tortured. And many men live in a cartoon. It seems to them that when a woman gives birth, then after that she will become a good mom. That is, literally gave birth, and that's it. The next day she already wakes up with a new character, with temperament, wisdom, patience, with a new worldview. Well, and in reality what? In reality, a woman will wake up with lack of sleep, anxiety, and resentment. That is, this is what happens. Well, every day a man chooses a deeply selfish woman and waits for her to become Mother of the Year. But in fact, a good mother starts long before childbirth, for many years. Regarding career here, of course, it's important to say, clarify that there are such stories when a woman plows so that the children have something to eat. But we are discussing a different story now, when a career for a woman is just a race of ambitions. That is, she does it not for the sake of children, but to the detriment of children, neglecting them, in pursuit of recognition and personal success. And here an attempt to build a family with such a woman. Well, this is just some kind of, well, misunderstanding. That is, like inviting a vegan to a shashlik. Well, that's roughly how it turns out. Let's move on. If your woman is a psychologist, coach, then she sees herself in the role of an all-knowing mentor. That is, in a relationship she will sit in the judge's chair, dictating what, in her opinion, a real man should do. That is, in a relationship there is only one opinion. Hers, and it is correct. Every word of hers is the truth in the last instance. She will constantly find some defects in your behavior. And if you behave badly, she can even voice some diagnosis. And such a lady seriously thinks that a psychology diploma turns her into a bearer of truth. That is, if you have a diploma, then you have the right to an opinion, and if not, then better shut up and keep quiet. And in a relationship with her, a man will be in the position of a fucked up student, and she in the role of a teacher. That is, any man who at least a little touches life and does not hide from it. He knows that most women who finish these psychology courses are just with diplomas. They haven't helped anyone in this life yet, even themselves. They couldn't arrange their personal life, but are already ready to hand out recipes for family happiness everywhere. In comments even, yes? That is, most go to study to be a psychologist not to help, but to get power. Got a piece of paper, and now her word becomes true. Now any guy with your opinion must reckon. Why? Because you are now not some empty shell. You are an empty shell with a diploma.